Comic book movies are basically the shit right now, but for every Civil War or Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a Batman v Superman and a Spider-Man 3. The main reason they don't always work is because they can't in a lot of ways. To give an abridged quote from a friend who hasn't really watched many comic book movies or read many comic books, comics are a completely different media, with different elements and structure, therefore they will not translate as well to film. To be honest, I half agree and half disagree. I agree when it comes to the basic structure of both medias. Comic books tend to tackle a few stories per issue, which may or may not be related to one big overarching plot, whereas a movie usually deals with one big story with similar character threads that usually fit into one big coherent narrative. Let's take the Superior Spider-Man comic arc. The main story is that Otto Octavius has planted his consciousness into Peter Parker/Spider-Man's body, and Otto claiming that his best revenge would be to become a better Spider-Man, hence the title Superior Spider-Man. Peter is also still fighting to gain control of his body, and that is the main overarching story. The smaller stories include Otto Octavius' relationship with Anne-Marie, blackmailing Mary Jameson to get his own base, getting Parker Industries, and getting a PhD so he can call himself a doctor again. Let's take the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. The main plot is that Indy has to stop the Nazis from getting, and then later stopping them from opening the Ark of the Covenant. That is the film's main plot. The main subplot is Indy's romance to Marion Ravenwood. There are a few smaller subplots like Indy's college job and, that sort of lead into a narrative. They kind of fit into it. There wouldn't be enough time in a 2.5-hour runtime to do what the Superior Spider-Man comic does, but there is enough time to deal with what the Raiders of the Lost Ark does. I disagree with him because comic books are really just books, and they have an advantage over just regular books as well. When you read, let's say, a Harry Potter book, you'll probably imagine Hogwarts looking very different to how I or anyone else does, and the movie is just kind of forces this image upon you that the director sees. It's also kind of why the castle design was very inconsistent throughout the movies. But comic books have an advantage here. The images are there, and yes, sometimes stuff is different, like the Green Goblin's costume in the first of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, which was not the first Spider-Man movie, by the way. That happened in 1977, look it up. But anyway, most superheroes will always look the same no matter what media they appear in. Another point to be made really is they don't always have to be 100% accurate to the source material, because that's kind of impossible. Just look at Scott Pilgrim. The comics are way different to the film, but they kept the same style from the comic, and the movie was very funny and kept all the characters true to who they were in the comics. Like, the only real way to tackle most of these stories and characters, in my opinion, would be through TV. Just kind of look at Daredevil and Jessica Jones. They're outstanding series that nail the main plot points and subplot points because it's a much better format for these characters. And the stories, they work due to the fact that comics also have an episodic format. A character that also really worked on the big screen was Deadpool, and I know what people are going to say, that I'm a Deadpool fanboy and my opinion shouldn't matter because I only like Deadpool because he's funny or blah blah blah. But Deadpool really worked well because they just kind of took the format of the comics where he just made fun of the tropes in comic books and made it about movies and comic book movies, and it's genius. And a final note I actually kind of want to bring up, and it's more on a previous note I just made, is the reason comic books can also work better as comic books rather than movies is because when they drop a story for a while, there's usually these little panels that'll tell you what issue you have to read on what specific page, so that, like, in this day and age now, you can just kind of Google the page and get that bit of information, or what pages they are, and get that bit of information, which you can't do in a movie because, it doesn't show up in a movie. It never will. And another point is, the reason Marvel are doing this so well is because they kind of built up these movies over years and years, and they have little story threads that feed into one big one. That's why the Avengers worked without really having that much of a story. It's just kind of a conclusion to 3 or 4 other movies, which a friend made that point, and someone said that there was no plot to the movie, and I was like, there is a plot, it's just that it's sort of, you have to watch the other movies. And then he said, no, I shouldn't have to watch 5 other movies, but it's a franchise. It's like getting to, Die Hard 4. I haven't seen Die Hard 4, but it's like watching Die Hard 4 and wondering what the fuck happened in Die Hard 1, 2, and 3, and the fact that I shouldn't have to watch the first 3 movies in the franchise to kind of get it. You do. It's a franchise. It's a big thing, and it's kind of new. No one really gets how this is working. But yeah, those are my opinions and thoughts. That's all I really have to say for today, so please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, Nerd Killer Entertainment, and I will see you guys in the next video.